Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. We're so glad that you're with us today here in the Visual Lounge. We're going to move through some quick announcements and then we're going to get to our guest, Cristi Cotovan. And we're going to be talking about being outside the box with Camtasia, some crazy stuff that you can do. We're going to get to know Cristi a little bit, find out some of the things that he's worked up that you can get inspired by, if you will. First announcement. April is the month we are moving only to the Visual Lounge channel. So if you're watching this on the TechSmith channel, we're so glad you're here. But beginning our first show in April, it will only be available on the Visual Lounge channel. Of course, once in a while, if it's really relevant, we'll post over on the TechSmith channel. But so start planning on watching over there, communicating over there. And if you haven't already, go subscribe so you never miss another episode of the Visual Lounge. Of course, the other thing is, I just want to take a second to thank TechSmith. I've been at TechSmith as an employee for a really long time, but they allow this to happen. They make this happen. And just if you haven't had a chance to try Camtasia or snag it, you're wondering what it's all about, go download a free trial. Make sure you give it a full run through because there's so many amazing things that you can make with both of those products. I know I use them basically every single day for my work and oftentimes for things that are not related to my work at home. So check them out if you haven't already. With that said, let's jump into today's show. So here we go. Cristi Cotovan is a man of many talents and abilities. As a self-proclaimed do-it-yourself guy, he has built bespoke web-based applications, including building his own e-commerce platform. But he's got an artist's mind. He also works in graphic design, logo and branding, print work, multimedia, and of course, audio and video editing. He is also prolific at creating videos teaching Camtasia, often pushing the boundaries of what I would think is possible. In a recent video, he created an effect that reimagines picture-in-picture talking head video with his head that is popping out, just like this if you're watching on screen, with his head popping out of the circle. Not only is he able to create these awesome effects, he also teaches others how to do it as well on his YouTube channel. And with that said, let me welcome Cristi Cotovan to the Visual Lounge.
Hey everyone, hi Matt, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Cristi, this is awesome. I know every time of one of your videos, they often go around TechSmith amongst the developers, among marketing, and we're all like, "He did what? Whoa, that's pretty cool."
No pressure.
No pressure. You have a lot of fans, and for anyone who doesn't know your work, go check out your stuff because I think you're doing some pretty incredible things. But before we get to some of the out of the box thinking with Camtasia, when I was going through looking at your background, you've done a ton of stuff. So what I'm really curious about is your background. What led you to be the guy that's making crazy Camtasia? I say crazy in a very nice, elegant way, right? Like, what's led you to be that person making those Camtasia tutorials?
I don't know. I'm a very visual guy, and I do development and software development and those things. But I always look at everything through sort of a visual lens, and sometimes I don't, when I look over someone's shoulder designing something, or I see someone and I say, oh, maybe the margins should have been larger, maybe something could have been done better. Or I watch some videos and there's like, oh man, they should have done this way and this way. And I'm always like DIY, and like I said, and I'm like, okay, I should probably just do my own thing. And I had to do some training materials for like colleagues or businesses and things like that. So then I came many years ago. I honestly don't remember when I used Camtasia for the first time. But then I found like, okay, it's a great tool for communicating processes and kind of walking people through a full workflow and stuff. But I feel like if you stay with the standard stuff, it's boring. And it's not just boring. Yeah, it gets the message across. But then, yeah, let's try something else. And now every time I do a project, whatever it is, video design, something, I try and put something special in there. So I think Camtasia is great for that because the screen recording and all that stuff is all built in, and I always steer people away from other software because of the screen recording even to start from there. But then I say, like, let's add some design stuff. Let's add something cool, something moving, even if maybe it doesn't really have to be there from a utility point of view. But just, yeah, there's that little pizzazz, just a little thing there. So don't go overboard. Then you get into a different kind of territory. But yeah, that's how I started. So I thought, I could probably teach this because it's not difficult. It's very nice and it's creative, and there you go. So I'm okay. I'm doing I'm doing them on YouTube. My YouTube channel started more varied, but I've quickly just kind of designed all those videos in Camtasia now, and I'm kind of mostly Camtasia. I think 90% of my channel is Camtasia now. So
Yeah, well, I
there
love
we
what you said
go.
about the pizzazz, right? Like adding a little bit of effect, adding a little bit makes it visually interesting. We're drawn to things like movement and change and all that. So that's awesome. And yeah, we're grateful that you've taken on that challenge of doing it. I wanted to ask you before we get into more kind of Camtasia specific stuff. I mean, you're a developer. You've written software and code and all that stuff. You're also got that design kind of mindset. And I'm wondering, and this is maybe a philosophical question of sorts, like how does that affect the way you approach some of the challenges? Like when you're thinking like, oh, this needs to be spiced up, it needs a little pizzazz. How do those kind of mindsets influence the work that you're doing in terms of the creativity of what you make in Camtasia?
Um, Well, it does help to be a developer because you then have a bit of a different idea of what goes on behind the scenes in the software you're using. I don't know if that helps learn it faster or maybe, kind of be able to do more things in that sense. Because the applications I develop are web apps and e-commerce and all those things, nothing to do with Camtasia. But I think now the developers may be having second thoughts about letting me talk, look at the maybe give them ideas or look into the beta versions because having a developer in there and say, come on guys, this is easy to do, you should be able to do this in like 5 minutes because I know so it's kind of dangerous to have someone in there, but it doesn't really being a developer is more like also thinking, okay, I'm trying to do something, it obviously doesn't work. Maybe okay, maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's the underlying graphic system, and maybe the button function is not connected to the thing with the other thing. So then you kind of have an idea as a developer what could be happening behind the scenes. But I don't think that impacts the way that you understand how the sort of the UI works. Maybe that too, but kind of teaching people into how to use something. Yeah, yeah, could be. I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, so it sounds like it gives you some structure of kind of like, well, if this is going to work in this way because of the way you would have to write that, right? Or what might be an easier, and I have to be careful because I know I often think, oh, that should be easy, right? And it's for developers, I know it's never that clear because there's always mitigating factors, right? All these things that might be
Yeah,
reasons why it's never as easy as we'd like to
developers.
say.
If you talk to a developer in the Camtasia team, they might go, well, you're asking me to do this thing. Okay, to you may sound easy, but for me, because I know everything that's under the hood and how things are structured and built, maybe it's not so easy. And I get this in the web design. Can you make a button that kind of connects this and give me a discount on the other thing? No, these are different things. I cannot just plug, put Scott, sellotape all over it and go, yeah, it makes put a hose in here and goes the other way. So it's not always easy. But even though if you're not a developer, a lot of people approach and talking about Camtasia, a lot of people are scared. They approach even other software, but Camtasia, like it seems complex, and they approach it with fear. And even when they start, they think, "Oh man, this is complicated." Or any other software, it's complicated. How am I going to learn everything? But this is not like I don't know. It's like you send your child to school, first grade, and the first day of school, you don't tell them, oh, go there and learn all the equations and all the maths and everything and logic and become a doctor, please, and see you at 3 or something. You don't do that because then they freak out. Like, I'm not. So you just learn. You have to learn step by step. Just one thing, one thing. You tell the child, go and make friends, have fun. Approach everything, even if it's complex, it looks daunting. Approach it with a bit of a fun attitude. Don't just go put pressure on yourself. I have to create this massive course or video or training material, whatever. Fine, but no one's asking you to make the full thing in 24 hours. Nobody's asking you to make it look like, I don't know, someone who's been doing it for 20 years or 10 years. So just approach it. And the attitude is, just let me try this. It's not going to explode. It's not going to blow up. It's not going to slap you in the face. It may not work, but it may work. And you may like, oh, so this is how I discover some of the functions. Just explore and don't be afraid.
Yeah. So Christy, you make a lot of videos, and like we said, a lot of them kind of push the boundaries of what you might expect to be able to do in a program like Camtasia, right? Like you're like going back to that cutout, right? Like I had literally never thought about taking the circle and making someone's like look like they were coming out of it. So I'm curious, as you push against these boundaries and limits, like you just said, it can feel intimidating. So you said kind of take it step by step. What role do the constraints of software play, or constraints of kind of creativity play in terms of making things that are unique and interesting? Is that important, or like do the constraints just hold you back?
Depends on the constraints, I think. And at some point you get to some constraints and you go, all right, this thing cannot be done with this particular software. So then you have to go, okay, I have to find a different way. And but constraints are great, because if you just get a set of features, and I'm going to say to the developers, if they're watching, I can't wait for 2022. But anyway, but if you said this is a finite set of features and functions, that's it. That's it. There's no new version until okay. So talking about just Camtasia, so that actually helps in a way, because constraints encourage you to think creatively, and you go, all right, well, I can't have something pre-built from somewhere and just plug and play, which actually to me sounds it's great to buy all those motion graphic things, you drop them in, and boom, Bob's your uncle. You've done it, but you haven't learned anything. And until I got that idea in my mind, okay, how can I overcome this? Can I actually combine one of these functions with another one and kind of get to where I want to? Can I use this particular function in a different way than, not necessarily how it was intended, but maybe someone didn't think of it? So just like you said, with the head popping up, that's a bit of a thing in design. When you do design, you try and avoid putting things in boxes all the time. Everything is a box. Here's my box for my logo. Here's the box for myself. Here's the box for the text. Here's the box for the whatever. Everything is a box. I know videos are kind of rectangular, but why not have things jump out from somewhere? Just kind of invade a little space. Just create a bit of space, invade some space, come out of some space, and there you go. You've got the talking head popping out of the circle, which I think is kind of creepy sometimes. but I think it works, because it gives you that, okay, so there you go. There's no longer the just circle. It kind of gives you more depth. It looks nice. It pops out, and that's my. So constraints are great to a point, because they encourage creativity, and they encourage you to think, and they kind of develop your knowledge of the software. Like, okay, how do I remove uneven green screen? That's one of those things where lighting is not so great. Okay, my corner is dark, the sides of my screen. So then I got like the idea, let me apply it twice. But how can I apply it twice? Nobody thinks, let's apply the green screen twice.
Right.
I could do it, because so then you kind of think, how can I do that? And how can I overcome that? So yeah, you get to it.
Which makes me think. I think I know how you might have done it, but that's a fascinating thought, right? Because I had a similar type of challenge. Like if you want to do any color correction, if you will, to camera video, you can only add one color at a time. So how do you add another color? Well,
yeah.
No one said you can't group a single object and add another color to the group, right?
You couldn't do that in 2019. You couldn't do that.
Right.
So I thought, some developer maybe thought about, let's allow grouping a thing with itself. It's not really a group, but now it opens up a bunch of things, possibilities. Oops, sorry, my chair's gone funny. So just think about. I never thought about being able to animate, for example, in Camtasia, in the function that's the effect that's remove a color, the green screen effect, the remove color effect. Turns out, by accident, I found out that you can no, not just apply it to a clip and kind of adjust the tolerance to get it to look nice, but you can animate those parameters, and you can animate even the color that's removed. So I thought, okay, so if I use that for something else, if I use it, and there's might be a video that you might be able to show where there's like some ink splatter expanding on the screen and revealing some images. Well, that is just this thing that I'm telling you, using the remove color effect in a very creative way and animating it. And I'm like, when I did that, I was like, man, if I do a tutorial, everybody's going to be blown away because it's so cool. And it was just an accident.
That's awesome. Well, I want to just say we've got a number of questions have come in, Christiana, and they're really good. So I'm gonna jump over to some of those. But I just, for anyone that's watching live, obviously give us your questions. If you're listening to podcasts, that's one of the benefits of going to the live. We know that's not always possible. Email us your questions at thevisuallounge@techsmith.com. Maybe we can see if we can answer a few of them at least. Okay. So first question from our chat, because I thought this was really good. What's your favorite feature you use in video? Do you have a favorite video feature?
Video or Camtasia feature? It's a bit unclear.
Chris
Maybe
used the word video. I'm
video.
good with either.
I would, in video in general, I do like to combine a bit of motion tracking, but also because my main use really for video is instructional design, and I do like to present the material in a very nice and friendly way, and just get the message across. But then animation would be my thing, and that's also in motion tracking. But animation in general, I think it can be used effectively, not overdone, because if you start shaking stuff around, nobody's going to be able to focus on anything. But animation is great, and you can combine animation with anything. So I would say animation, just being able to move things, animate, zoom, not just zooming in and out, but moving stuff to sort of provide an aid to presenting the information, like bringing in some progress bars on screen, or showing the lower thirds and kind of making them come in an interesting way, but not intrusive at the same time. There's a bit of a balance, a very thin line there. So yeah, animation is.
Yeah.
And in Camtasia, my favorite is the media math. There you go. But everybody knows that.
Well, I love what you're saying. Like it's a tool, right? Animation obviously can be overused, but it's drawing attention, it's drawing focus. You can use it to bring in information kind of subtly versus like just throwing it boom right there in front of everything. So I think that's a really good one. And even your types of videos, you got your screen recording, you got your camera video. There's whole I'm trying to think of the word when it's just kind of like text, like a kinetic text type video. You can do animations with those to make. So there's so many great uses with that. Stan is asking another question, and this is maybe a little bit broader, bigger question, less video focused. But who are you learning from today? Like, so who we'll get to. I got an inspiration question for you later, but I'm curious, like, who are you watching or turning to learn that you think like, hey, they're doing a great job at teaching? And Chris or Stan, if I've changed your question too much, you can tell Jesse in the chat.
I can't think really of in this video kind of thing, in the video department, let's call it video editing department. I like to do my own thing. I'm not saying I know everything and I don't need to learn. Everybody needs to always learn something. I learn by doing a lot. So I can't really point to a person that like, okay, I always go to them to learn stuff. I mainly watch maybe the trends, I would say, just what people kind of tend to do. So I'm more focused now on learning about marketing and kind of making video effective, not just making the video itself. So yeah, I would probably say that I watch a lot of marketing stuff, but in terms of learning for video, I guess I pick and choose from whatever I need. I'm not the kind of guy that just sits down and watches a course from start to finish. And oh, all right, now I know everything there is to know about this. No, so this is the attitude that I encourage also those that I train in Camtasia and other things. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't try and learn everything at once. Don't try and do everything at once. Just work on a specific project and just find out and just learn, look up the things that you need to know for this particular thing. So that has always worked out for me very well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great answer because I think oftentimes we get it's easy to get caught up in the technicalities, I'll call it, of video creation, right? How do I edit? How do I cut? And those things are important at the end of the day. Like, how do I do these effects? But video, video is just a package. It's just a piece of media, and it's got to do a job. And the job might need some marketing. It might need, how to deliver it to a learner. It might need all these other pieces. So that makes a lot of sense to me that if you're already
Yeah.
proficient at video editing, you're going to learn about the other parts of the process because you're doing it seems like you're doing an okay job, I guess, on the video editing, Christy. You know
I
a
would
thing
say
or
if there's,
two.
I would say if there's something that I wish I knew faster would be figuring out keyboard shortcuts and tricks and things that make your work faster, not necessarily better, but faster. Because I even have to stop myself now when I record a tutorial with Camtasia, for example. There's also, I know two shortcuts. I'm going to do a video, by the way, secret shortcuts. But anyway, I now know most of the shortcuts. So I tend to use them all the time in editing. But then when I do a tutorial, I have to stop myself and kind of say, well, I better go and point to the thing, not just do the shortcut, because people are going to miss. And sometimes that's a problem. Some people do that on tutorials. They just press something. What happened? I don't know. What did I do? So it can get, so in terms of, but for my work, I would love to kind of always looking out for these tricks and kind of how can I make it faster,
Hmm. Yeah.
more efficiently. So
Yeah. So I'm going to say there's two other questions. One from Jeff and Garth that are really related, but I'm going to save them for our speed round because they're very similar to the speed round questions. So Jeff and Garth, just hold with us for a few minutes. I want to talk. You've talked a lot about learning like foundational, learn the foundations, then kind of progress through, kind of getting more and more interesting, if you would say. For you, if someone's coming to your channel and obviously they're seeing the really cool stuff that you're doing, and they're not quite ready to do those things, what are some foundations everyone needs to know, whether in Camtasia or video editing in general?
in Camtasia, I think the most confusing function that people find, and again, is animation, and they know what they're trying to do to achieve, and they kind of try and use the zoom and pan functionality. So this is one of those things that I always see a lot of people go, I use the zoom and pan on the thing, and now everything is zooming in and out. So in a bit of a feedback for your team is, honestly, that tab with the zoom and pan, which is the default that shows up when you go to animation, should not really be the default. They should let people use the animations, custom animations first. So here's my tip for everyone. If you learn how to use the custom animation, you will never need another animation ever again. All those animations that you have in Camtasia pre-built, they are just custom animation with a predefined start and end point kind of thing. That's all there is. And I know that because I'm a developer. Here we go. You go to the, I know what it does. It's not like they are different things. They just move your things from one point to another as if you had gone and done it yourself. And most of them, if you drag them to your clip and kind of go to the end and object, the initial animation is lost now because you've changed one of the keyframes. So this is what I say to everyone. Learn to master the custom animation, which is really just moving an object from A to B. And then you will be you're just going to have this revelation of, oh, I can do a lot of stuff now because I can move this to there and put that in and kind of enlarge something else, animate the colors. Oh, this is great. And none of this stuff can be included in those pre-made animations. So that would be like my go-to thing, just go learn that.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to talk about, okay, we titled this Camtasia out of the box, right? Like, so thinking outside of the boundaries of what Camtasia can do. And I think one of the big things is, I think there's a lot of people who are technically proficient. They can, I'll take myself, for example. I know how to edit. I can cut things together. I can build a pretty good looking video. But to get beyond that, it takes a source of inspiration. It takes ideas. It takes, a little bit of grit to work on it. I'm curious for you. You've got. I don't even know. I looked at your YouTube channel. I didn't even know how many Camtasia videos you have. It looked like a lot. I'm curious, where are you getting your inspiration from? How are you coming up with these ideas, whether it's the head popping out or crazy effects? And we're going to look at some of those effects that you've got a video for us. But where are you getting these ideas from? Like, what's inspiring you? Because if I want to be inspired too to try some things.
Well, that's a kind of a difficult question to answer because, like I said at the beginning, I'm quite a visual person, and I look at everything through, even now I have in front of me a couple of windows open on my screen. It bothers me that one of them is overlapping the other, so I'm going to just adjust that quickly. So what I mean is editing, looking at things through a visual kind of, you see it everywhere. So I used to do graphic design, logo branding, and book cover design, which is a great source of inspiration for me. Looking at the kind of design trends in book cover designs, and my development, my e-commerce platform sells books predominantly. So I've seen a lot of books over time. So you look, but also you could look at a billboard, a banner you see online, some advertisement, some newsletter. That's a great source of inspiration, particularly if you subscribe to the great combination of newsletters from booksellers. Many of them, they just try and outdo with little beautiful designs in there. And of course, you get this overload of graphic imagery in the book covers because every book is trying to stand out as it is, book by the cover. So that would be one of my top inspiration. I just look at something and ooh, that looks nice. And then the second question is, can I animate that in such a way, in a kind of way? Can I maybe do that in Camtasia? And then something clicks and I go, yeah, actually, yes, I do. And the idea with this eye popping out of the thing, it actually came from, I think, from a book cover. I can't remember which one it was, but I can't remember. But it was like, oh, there's a circle and there's someone just, the author. I think it was a picture of the author kind of popping out of the circle. And I thought, could I do that with the talking head like video? If I remove the background and I've got the transparency, I can just put, okay. So there was, it's one of my top videos, I guess, successful videos, because just think about it. You don't think about it. It's like, who invented the nail? I could have invented that, but I didn't think about it. Very simple thing. That's my inspiration.
Well, I love that you're taking a visual medium that's not video and translating that to be something that is video with animations and things like that. So it's really probably just paying attention to the world around you and the designs around you. I know, in a marketing perspective, you're always looking at other people's sites and saying like, what are they doing? What's working? So I love that you're taking it that next step, right? Now, I'm not just trying to do one for one copy. I'm not just making another book cover. You're taking it and turning and saying like, how do I do that here in this other effect?
Because if you think about a book cover, you only have 1 second or two to make an impression when you design a book cover. And there's another constraint there. The space is limited and the format is limited. So when I was designing book covers, I was always struggling to get all the information in there that they wanted. You got the title and the tagline and maybe a visual that you want to see and the publisher name or whatever you want to do. Branding stuff, you got to put that in there. And maybe if it's a series, you have to make sure it kind of sticks, kind of have a bit of consistency across different covers if you're doing many volumes. So a lot of constraints in a book cover. And then, that really puts a pressure on you. Like, so if you think about that, if you look at a book cover, you think, yeah, that's boring, but actually someone agonized over it and kind of tried to visualize and take all this feedback. So it's the same with video sometimes. Okay, if you do your own videos, don't care about anything and nobody's going to criticize you or watch them, why bother, right? You're just doing stuff for yourself. But if you have to do a tutorial video or something, and you want that to be the best you can in terms of communicating and making that person teaching, maybe it's not you, making them look great and make sure the information is organized, people don't get bored, all those things, when you create a video, you only have 5 minutes or whatever time. So then that comes in. You're like, how do I arrange things on the screen? How can I bring in some bullet points in a
Yeah.
non-boring PowerPointy kind of way? How can I? So yeah, there's also ideas.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to turn to some more questions, and then I want to get to the example video that you sent to me, so we can walk through that. Scott's asking, any tips on to know when to stop tweaking a project? Obviously, a video is never done. It's never complete. It's only just, you have to say it's done at some point. But how do you decide it's ready to go?
I would say when I start editing a video, you look at the title and you look at the topic or whatever like in the case of one of my clients and friends, Chris, he records them, and then I take over and I edit everything. So that video is already done. It's finite. It's been recorded. There's no going back. We're all, this is it. So then you kind of go what's the title? What do I need to emphasize? What the stuff that I really need to make clear? Because he's recording the screen and he just goes through it and boom, the end. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye. So then you say, well, okay, but he's showing something on the left, something on the right. You kind of make that information. But then how can you, back to the question, when do you stop? So you may add some titles, you may add some bullet points, you may add some progress bar to keep engagement or whatever, show people progress through it. What I usually think about is this: do one thing at a time only. So don't just animate something in here, make something move there and bounce around and kind of show some shaking, because the person watching can't really focus on everything. So if you are doing too many things, if you watch the video and go like, okay, I can see this thing moving here, something popped up there, and the speaker is actually talking about something in the corner, I'm trying to look there and digest what's happening. It's too much. It's already too much. So kind of thing, it's like one of those little tips when you're doing a transition. Simple thing, just drag a transition and the speaker is talking, or an animation zooming in and out. Try and do that when there's no speech. Okay. So think about it, because if you're saying, okay, so you go to the top right and we'll find this function, here it is. Well, in that little break you should have zoomed in there. Don't distract me with, or like you're fading in over like a second, but while you're fading, your instructor says, hey, hello, this is Chris and how are you, but you're still fading him in. That's so then you kind of say, what is hindering the delivery of this message? What's distracting me? I should take it out, or maybe move it. If I'm trying to kind of put my lower thirds, please subscribe to my channel and stuff like this, try and do that, of course, after you've provided some useful value information also, but also when there's nothing essential happening, because I don't want you to, I'm focusing on something you're showing, but you're popping this thing up now. What is that? Is that a web address? Oh, okay. So, I lost what I was watching. I just lost my train of, okay. So that would be, if you're watching your video and you've added so many bells and whistles everywhere and it's kind of becoming distracting from the message, you've done too far. You've gone too far.
Yeah. Yeah. We're as humans, we're terrible about focusing on more than one thing at a time, right? So I think that's great advice. Next question for you, Cristi, because I want to get to this example video. When editing, what keyboard shortcuts do you use the most? So you have keyboard shortcuts, particularly in Camtasia, that are like must know.
Yes. Shift and A, Shift and S to silence, Shift and A to add animation. That's what I use. Okay, space key, space bar to play and stop, really. So these are like the most common, and a secret one, Control D, which is very useful. I mean, if you never tried that one, try making a selection on your timeline with your, and then press Control D. You'll thank me later. So Control D is I do that all the time. When you need to do cuts, you need to kind of select, and then the selection stays there. Double click on the thing. Too much work. Control D. But Shift and
Perfect.
A, I would say that's what I use the most. Animations everywhere, Shift and A.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit. This is another question from Scott Rogers. He says, "How do you gather those creative ideas so you remember them all several weeks from now? You know, like obviously you're seeing stuff all the time. Is coming in, and you see something. Are you taking screenshots? Are you doing something
I
else?
do. Yeah, I take screenshots. If I'm seeing something on my phone, I grab a screenshot, save it to my library, my photos, whatever, so I can scroll back and I should have done a video on this. And because this is a cool thing, because if you're a visual person, if you see something you like, I need to grab this, maybe take a picture, whatever, then you already go through the process of why you captured that particular piece of visual, whatever it is. So then maybe I don't have time to do a tutorial on it, because I think, oh, maybe I should animate this and kind of try. I can try it. I'm not always at the computer, I can't try everything else, but I have about 20-30 Camtasia projects right now, just experiments, because I like to test. I wonder if that works. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
fail and crash and burn, they don't work. But then that's the nice thing, because if you go back to your library of captures and things and you see them, obviously I've got loads. So I can't, you think maybe you can't remember why you captured that particular one, what was going through your mind. But actually, I find that when I do that, when I go will look at it, and I know exactly why I saved it. So it's kind of like I liked it because of the thing. Oh, I forgot about this. I should do a video. I should do a test, see if it works. So yeah, just grab screenshots or photos.
Yeah, I often am grabbing things and snag it, and I use the tags to tag it so I have it so I can look at it later. Or I like you, I have projects. In fact, I just have a few I just did this week. We're just testing like, is that even possible? Like I don't even know. Like, and I didn't
Yeah.
invest any time to make it look good, but I was like, hey, I can. I bet you we can do something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, you don't always have to look for the impossible things, right? Okay, Camtasia is a easy to use program, and it's got loads of functions, and you combine those and you achieve whatever. But um, sometimes I go like, oh, I wish I could do this or this, and then I can maybe try and find ways around it if it doesn't work the way that I think it should. But this idea gathering is also for me, because I am a person that gets bored quickly. So I mean, I move furniture all the time. It's crazy. My wife is completely so because of that, I this is my first thought when I start a video. How can I put something new in this video, or fresh? How can I do something that I haven't done before? How can I improve over the last one? How can I make, okay, if it's something that has to be in a course and it has to be consistent, that's fine. But even start a new course, how can I make this course more attractive than the previous? So that's when you go into creative mode and you design all these lower thirds and assets and transitions and whatever, put them in your library, and boom, you're set. So variety would be like the motivator. It's don't be boring.
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And if for anyone who's like, oh, I need to be boring because I need to be consistent, last week's episode was really good because we talked about some of those ways to be consistent. But even and then, it's nice to find those nice things that you can do to be, be creative, make it more interesting. Cristi, I wanna go to this video. So prep us on what we're about to see, and we can talk. We'll talk during the video. I'll turn the music down so it's not super loud or anything like that. But before I bring it up, what are we gonna look at?
Well, I just 2 hours ago, I just went through my experiment projects and I rendered what I could see was usable, and it doesn't look like, it doesn't work. And I exported them and I put them together in a montage. So what you're going to see is not a tutorial, but it's going to be like a montage of things that might become tutorials soon, or they might become an asset you can download with some interesting animations and concepts that I put together in my spare time, just testing things out. So maybe a couple of them already made it as a tutorial on my channel. They probably, yes, they have. So,
Okay.
but interesting thing, and I wonder if anyone can figure out how the music scope is done. That would
Which,
be interesting.
for those who don't know what a music scope is, it is a
It's the little animation with the sound reacting, the visual reacting to the sound. The VU meter, is it? I don't know what
Yeah,
it's
the
called.
VU meter. Okay, so
Yeah, that's the
let's
one.
watch this. Feel free to explain anything that we're seeing. Here we go.
Yeah, it's too fast, I think.
Maybe move us out of the way here.
Camtasia, no external tools, no plugins.
It's a nice card effect. That's kind of cool way if you're introducing a team or something.
Yeah. And these are reusable, actually. You can have them reusable.
I recognize those
is.
people.
This one is using that effect of animating the visual, the remove color.
Oh yeah, I've made an effect like that. That's pretty cool. Ah, look at that. We won't tell anybody from the Olympic Committee that we use the rings. It's kind of weird that you've used pictures of the Visual Lounge, but I love it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to put the stock photos in there. I just grabbed a couple of screenshots from your previous videos.
That's great. I love the map ones. I think the map ones are super cool, and like that one reminiscent of like Indiana Jones. Ooh, that's pretty awesome. Classic Star Wars scroll text.
Yeah, so some of these I already planned to make tutorials with, showing how they're done and kind of the ins and outs of those. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe Camtasia 2022 brings some new juicy stuff that I could play with.
Yeah. So of those demos, and I can always go back to it. Like, was there one in particular that's like, oh gosh, you were really surprised by, like that you could make it work, and maybe it was easier than you thought, or maybe it was just really difficult, and it would be like, oh gosh, I think twice before I do that one again.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is those ink splatter ones that expanded, because by accident I figured out that you can animate the tolerance of the remove color effect and combine that with a graphic that is like a grayscale in different grayscale, different gray levels of gray. So that actually makes, if you work it backwards, the tolerance will let more or less color go through, which means that the sort of the lighter hues get removed later. So that was the way I was like, whoa, I did not see that coming, because I animated it by mistake and I was moving it around, just trying to create some graphics with the alpha. So that's got alpha and got remove color, animation, images and clipping and all those things in there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And the other one is the music, the VU meter, which I thought, you know what? My attitude is this: if someone says you can't do that in Camtasia, I'm going like, hold my beer. Let's do it. So I just tossed that idea around a lot until I go like, I could actually do it that way, maybe. So you try it, you experiment, and it works. So that's the thing, and the VU meter is one of those really out of the box thinking. But it does work, and it does react to music in real time, the way you see it. So
that's cool. Very cool. Can't wait to see that tutorial. That would be awesome. Cristi, before we jump, we're going to jump into our speed round. For those who don't know, speed round are some quick questions, quick answers. But before we do that, where can people go and find your tutorials, more about you, connect with you? Where would you suggest?
Well, the first port of call, I guess, should be the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Graphicious, GRAPHICIOUS for those listening, I guess. You probably have show notes, right?
You will
and
have show notes. We'll put it in the show notes. Also, Jesse will put it in the chat for people watching live.
So yeah, so my website graphicious.co.uk. It seems nobody can really pronounce that word properly. So for that, I am actually taking some measures, some steps to change it, and it's going to be mylastname.com, cotovan.com, COTOVAN.com. That's going to become my new website address. Of course, the old one's still going to work, so redirects. So
I thank you because I
yeah,
know you're talking about me that can't say it every time.
no, I'm not really. Maybe.
Well, that's awesome. And guys, go check out Christy's stuff. I mean, if you saw that reel, if you're on listening, you'll have to find the YouTube channel if you're listening to the podcast. But so many cool examples of effects all made in Camtasia, which I think is awesome. But Christy, are you ready? I know you watched the show, you know Speed Round, so are you ready for this? It's your turn.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see.
Here we go. We took advice from last week and we've shortened everything up. So first question, Christy, for you.
Ooh, that
Speed
was
Round.
surprising.
I know.
I didn't realize it was. Oh, you did take the advice. Okay, that's
I
good.
did. Hey, we listen on the show. We care about our listeners, what they think. So we shortened up Speed Round, the little trailer there. So, but here's the question for you. And this was a question that a couple of our guests or people listening today have asked about. Slight variations. What is the craziest effect you've built in Camtasia? Jeff said, "What's the most challenging, thing?" Garth was like, "What's something that you never thought you could do, but found a way to make it work?" So, craziest effect thing that you've made in Camtasia.
The craziest one, I would say, first place would be that music meter, which is really complex and kind of weird. But the second one would be the one where I try and mimic the 3D, the appearance of 3D. I try and do that a lot. I have got a 3D eye. Too, I kind of see stuff spatially very well. I was amazing in geometry. But that was the one where you take a flat thing, which video is a flat thing,
Mm-hmm.
nonstop. It's a flat thing, and you kind of start to turn it around, and then you bring in the little animation, and then maybe let's create the illusion of the camera depth of field by applying a series of blur effects,
Yeah.
different offsets and different intensities in the corners. So it was a lot of work, and the tutorial might be quite long. Some people say it's long tutorials, but I think I love it, because if you put the investment in, you're like, man, that looks nice, and it looks realistic, and when you watch it, you go, there's no way you did that in Camtasia. And I'm always on a mission to prove, yes, you can do much more in Camtasia than you think you can. And just, it doesn't pay to just stick to the basics. Yeah, default, predefined, good enough.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
can
know.
and can
Sorry,
in
should be a short
Camtasia.
answer.
Yeah, no, I love
Sorry.
it. So, Christy, obviously you're teaching Camtasia. It's a skill we think biased thinking, but we think everyone should learn about Camtasia. What's a skill outside of Camtasia that you would recommend everyone learn that will actually help them with Camtasia?
I would say the main thing is look at things other people design, and of course not to steal them, but be inspired. And more than anything, look for how you create layouts, how you lay things out, how you put them, where you put them, and leave some margins around them, leave some breathing room. Just assemble something that is pleasant. Things don't jump on top of the other unless you mean for them to do that. But I think one thing that bothers me, and I watch some videos and I go, oh, there's a title came in too close to the margins, too close to the edge. There's no spacing around it, or it's a bit crooked, or
Mm-hmm.
and I know that maybe some people think they don't matter. It's just a tutorial. Nobody cares for that thing. But it bothers me. I mean, the visual people, it goes, man, why did you put the thing on their face? Or why didn't you just leave a little margin? Why don't you use, and I created some of these grids to help me kind of stay away from things like thirds and safe margins. That's a big one in video.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't just put stuff next to the edge, just like glued to the edge there. You put some bullets on the screen and you added a background for them. Leave some breathing room. Just give them some space. You don't have to fill every pixel. with things, So that's the kind of thing. Just to look for that layout, because it draws the attention to the, if everything is big, what do I look at first?
Right.
So I'm
Right.
trying to lead people. That video is a bit of a dance. You're showing the speaker on the screen, and then you say, right now it's time to present something. Move them to the corner and reveal the screen. It's like you're directing a show sometimes, not just here's the video, just watch it and shut up. No.
Well, I love it. I think it's great advice and well worth listening to. Next question. We got 2 questions left. Normally, we ask at this time standard questions. What's your inspiration? We've talked about that already, so I've got a special one for you. It seems that you have a lot of projects, things going on all at the same time. You're doing all these tutorials. You've got your other work. You're doing building e-commerce sites, whatever, all the things. So what's the secret to keep going on creating new videos and doing all this? How do you manage to do it all? You don't
Know.
sleep, do you?
Yeah, I don't sleep too much, but that's not, I can't help not, create. I'm a creator. I don't want to sound too corny or whatever, but I cannot help it. When I was in school and I was listening to a lesson, like my teachers, my notebook was full of scribbles and sketches and designs and graphics and logos and text and little funky stuff. I could not help just sit there and not design something. And it comes back to, trying to be always fresh, always inspired, always new, something new. If I've done something for too long, I'm bored. I want to change something else. But if you're doing like tutorials, this is another one where you just get inspired by what other people say and do, and also people who have questions and they're struggling with something, and I can't not help. So I've started a series of videos actually where I just do one video answering one question that I've seen on social media, whatever. So try and help people, really. Just that's
Yeah.
I don't think, I watch TV shows, some TV shows that I love, and I watch many of them many times. One of my top ones would be Corner Gas. You may have not heard of it. If you have heard of it, it's very funny.
We'll have to check.
Just to
We'll have to check it out, right? We've got a couple other questions we're going to ask from the audience, but before we do that, our last speed round question, and I know you know it because it's always the one that we say is the hardest. Okay. It's the one that we turn it around. So, Cristi, what's a question you'd like to ask me?
Man, I've been meaning to ask you this. So it's a bit off topic, but you asked me about how do I rest and how do I relax and stuff like this. Now, my question is this: does Mr. Matt Peters like to cook? And if he does, what?
Oh, that's a great question. Do I like it? Sure. I will happily get in the kitchen. I'm not good at it, but I have my wife and my kids are all really excellent at cooking. My son lived in Mexico for a little while, came home and like spent a summer not only cooking like traditional like Mexican dishes from where he was living for about 7 months. He bought himself a pizza oven and got into like making like traditional pizzas. And so here's the thing, I'm spoiled. I don't have to cook a lot because they're so good, but I like it. I enjoy it. I'm not very good at it, but I'll throw down. So, and what do I like to cook? I like to do I don't know. I think the one thing I do pretty good, I make a mean fried rice.
Ooh, okay.
Combining all the ingredients, figuring out ways to make that taste good. Other than that, I'm not super fancy. Although I did make with my wife, so we each made a beef Wellington. That was a lot of fun and challenging to figure out. I watched a lot of videos no Gordon Ramsay videos on making a beef Wellington.
The ones where he's shouting at people. Those are
no. He would have been shouting at me. What are you, donkey? Yelling at me, all that kind of stuff. But no. It was. But so I enjoy it. I'm probably not very good at it, but when I get a chance, I love the community of being in the kitchen and talking and I really like eating. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. put the computer away. I love cooking too. That's why I'm asking. Like,
It's a great
just
question.
do completely different, something completely different from all the clicking.
We'll have to do maybe we'll have to do a cooking show sometime. You know how to cook Camtasia inspired meals.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm kidding. Okay, before we wrap up here, because we're getting short on time, Jeff had asked a question I think is good here to wrap up. What non-TechSmith piece of editing hardware, so editing hardware, can you not do without? Do you use any hardware for your video editing besides your mouse and keyboard?
I do. I use this particular thing, which I think has come up before. This particular piece of, it's called a shuttle.
A shuttle, yeah.
Contour Shuttle Express. This one, I don't like the big one. It's too many buttons. But I do like it because you can. I don't want to touch it now because I don't want to mess something up. But you can map it to shortcuts and not zooming in necessarily, but like moving the playhead back and forth.
So you can turn it and
even one frame at a time. Create selections. Have some buttons you can hotwire them to do whatever you want. So that's a bit of a time saver. But I'm usually just a simple mouse and keyboard. Keyboard, I find you need a good keyboard. When I don't have a good keyboard, doesn't matter if the computer is like the top notch, whatever. If the keyboard, I want to smash something, the keyboard would probably be responsible usually. It's just like sticky keys, boom. Oh. Because when you're editing video, you get into a flow. So you go like, oh, shift key is sticky. Better stay away from that. And then you mentally have these nags, like, which is yeah.
Well, great advice. And Cristi, thank you so much for joining me today. So much interesting and valuable information about getting outside of the box and Camtasia, being creative. Everyone go check out Cristi's stuff. So thank you once again for being with us today.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a blast to have these fantastic guests on the show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you can watch us over on the Visual Lounge channel on YouTube, or you can find we live stream to LinkedIn as well. We have a podcast, so this show gets turned into an audio podcast if that's more your jam. You want to listen to us on a commute or just in audio format, go check us out. Just search for the Visual Lounge. You can actually ask your smart speaker as well to play it, and a lot of them will. I know mine does, at least. I don't ask it to play very often, but just to make sure things are working. So with that said, make sure you tune in every single week. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the new channel, because starting April, once again, that's the only place the live stream is going to be at, and the show is going to be hosted over there. The replays are going to be over there on the Visual Lounge channel, so we want to make sure you don't miss anything. And with that said, we hope that you're having a great week. Spring is here for us in the Northern Hemisphere. It's starting to give us hope of sunshine and warmth here in Michigan. And, whatever you're doing this week or next week, take a little time. Do what Cristi's doing. Experiment, learn some things, and level up wherever you are. And we'll see you guys next week.